I have to wait to see my book in my library, but that will be a big moment for me because I just think
Yeah.
libraries are amazing in terms of what they do. But when I got the proof, it was really exciting. I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like a real book. I mean, it is a book.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Conversation with your host, Nadine Matheson. As always, I hope that you're well and I hope that you've had a good week. I'm doing good. I'm enjoying this quiet space of May. And I say quiet space of May because even though I'm writing, I'm not doing any events, which is why it's quiet. I'm not teaching any baby lawyers at the moment, which is why it's quiet. I have a bit of space and I'm going to enjoy it because literally as soon as June starts, we are going to be deep into festival seasons. And I think this summer I'm going to be, actually not I think, I know, I'm going to be at Capital Crime in June. I'm doing Slaughterfest also in June. I'm then going to be at the Theakston's Old Peculiar Crime Writing Festival in Harrogate in July. I think I'm waiting for another event to be confirmed in July. I'll be free in August and then I'll be appearing at, I think, Spike Island in September. And there might be another couple more events scattered around October. And then I'll be free again. So yeah, the summer is going to be busy. Well, June and July is definitely going to be busy, which is why I say I'm going to be enjoying this quiet time. And during this quiet time, I have still been having conversations with many amazing authors. And a recent conversation I had, which you're going to be listening to soon, is with debut author Remy Kone. I love this conversation with Remy because not only is Remy Kone a debut novelist, she is also a Emmy-nominated TV producer. And she's worked on shows like Killing Eve and Spooks and Lewis. And I learned so much about, well, the world of TV production, in addition to what it's been like for her as a debut novelist. Her debut novel, Innocent Guilt, is out today. And if the title didn't give it away, Remy Kone is a crime writer. And in our conversation, Remy Kone and I talk about the secret to making your villain truly villainous, the art of creating charm on the page, and the surprising challenges of writing a book. Now, as always, sit back, we'll go for a walk and enjoy the conversation. Remy Kone, welcome to The Conversation.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Right, my first question for you, Remy, is how would you describe your writing journey so far?
Gosh, that's a hard one because I feel like because the book's out in 3 weeks' time, it almost feels like it hasn't started. You know, like someone said to me the other day, you know, what do you do? And I always say I'm a TV producer because that's my day job. And I think I'll have to go into a bookshop and hold the book in my hand before I say I'm a writer. I don't know. It just doesn't quite feel real. I started writing it because I've done a lot of, I work in TV drama. And I'd worked on a few thrillers. I'd worked on a couple of adaptations, and I wouldn't describe myself as a writer at that point, but I was a storyteller. I'd written lots of stories or worked on stories with writers. And I think at first I was just really, really intrigued to know whether I could do it. And stupidly, I thought it would be much easier than it was. And then I started and I was like, whoa, it's actually very hard to write a book. So at first it wasn't about getting published. It was just about seeing if I could actually get to the end of a book.
Yeah.
And then when I got to the end of it, I thought, wow, let me try and do something with it. And so it was just, I shifted the goalposts every time I kind of got to a particular point. So yeah, I think that's kind of how it started. And then I got an agent. And then when I got an agent, and getting an agent was an interesting one because I sent it to like a couple of people, you know, one wasn't interested, one, I think was more interested in me, but I'm not sure they liked my book as much. And it took me a while to figure that out. And I think because I'm a producer and I'm often like, you know, selling projects.
Yeah.
And often you try and sell a project and it doesn't quite work. You need to be really passionate about something. So that if it doesn't work, you keep going. So I wasn't sure about that. And then my current agent, who's amazing, she didn't take me on first time, but she sent me back my manuscript annotated. and her notes were amazing. And so I kind of had this annotated manuscript. I mean, it was just, she'd taken the time, and I just thought, wow. So I was working through her notes. And then about 6 months later, so my main character, Leah Hutch, skips. I got an email from Camilla going, I've just been trying to skip and it's really hard. have you done something with your book? And I was like, oh, I'm actually just like redrafting it. And I was in the middle of I was in production. I thought, at Christmas, I'm gonna redraft it and I'll send it back to you. And I sent it back to her. And then we met. And you must have had this when you got your agent. I met her and she didn't say whether she was taking me on. I think she was checking I wasn't, I don't know, weird or something. And then about an hour into the conversation, I was thinking in my head, is she going to take me on? Is she not going to take me on? And then she said, oh, by the way, I want to represent you. And and that's kind of how I got my agent.
I always say to people, especially when I've mentored writers, that if an agent says no, but they've taken the time to give you notes, they're giving you feedback on your manuscript, it's a good thing. And I know it's hard sometimes to distance yourself from the no, but the fact that they've taken that time to give you there's literally absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. And it's kind of like a good indication that they probably will take you on if you do incorporate the notes and do the work.
It's a really interesting one actually, because and this is partly about kind of rejection stuff. So I guess in my day job, I'm often giving notes to writers, and you're thinking about how you're going to present those notes so that the note is heard, but I don't know, that it's easier to hear, because sometimes it can be hard to hear feedback.
Yeah.
And so when I'm getting notes, I'm always looking for the note behind the note, because I don't know if because sometimes people put something down on paper or they say something, but actually what their real problem is slightly different from how they've articulated it. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah, I do, but I don't think I've ever even thought about it that deep. If that makes sense. It's I think I'm you're probably aware of it. Maybe it's something instinctual that says there's something more behind. There's more meaning behind what they've said. Yeah,
exactly. I think both of us the rejection I got. I remember she'd forwarded me on the internal note from her assistant, which had been written for her, and so then she went, oh, I think you might find this helpful. And the internal note, I don't know, it was because it was supposed to be just for her, but it had quite the tone was slightly okay. But actually, when I sort of took a second and then reread it, what she was saying behind the words was actually really helpful. Going back to your point about feedback.
Yeah.
But she just she kind of came up with solutions that probably weren't right for my book, but they were addressing problems that I need to look at.
That's such I think it's on one hand, it's so cool that you can see that, but also as well, it takes a lot, I think, for a writer, for anyone to take on board the recognition that there are other problems that they haven't foreseen, because you can be so protective of your work.
Yeah, you can be, but you know what? I don't know. Sometimes that's why time helps. Sometimes when someone says something to you and in the moment you're like, whoa, that's not right. And then you leave it for 24 hours, maybe a week, come back, read it again. You're like, maybe something, maybe there's something that was niggling me. Maybe I'll give you that. So I think time always helps them anyway for me.
The reason why I'm laughing, I think I had that with my last book, and there's a scene in it.
We'll kill this or another one.
Yeah, no, it's just in the new one, which will be out next February. And there's a scene, and I love this scene. I think it's such a great scene, and I'm so attached to this scene, and I know it's like an unhealthy attachment. And my editor, from when she gave me my first set of editing notes, I think back in November, October, and she's like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to get rid of this scene." And I'm like, "Nope, I am not getting rid of it." And
did it survive?
No, I left it in there with my note. I left it in there with my editing, sent it back, and then it came back, and she was like, no, it needs to go. It doesn't. And I'm like, no, because I think it's great. I think visually it's great, and I know what it means. But then it's that time thing, because there's been so much time from October to April, basically, with our second set of edits, and I conceded. I was like, yeah, she's right. I've had the time.
But you know what? With books, it's harder because a book stays in the same form. With TV, what tends to happen is you see the scene in a script and you're like, script, scene's got to go. Scene's got to go. The writer's really resistant. And then you
Are they
film
just as resistant, like TV, like screenwriters?
sometimes, but I don't think I've noticed, and it's a separate point. I guess in books, it feels like people are very much like it's your baby. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think with TV, there are lots of voices. But what tends to happen is then you film the scene and then you get to the edit when you've got the finished scene and you put it all together. And then everybody realizes that the scene didn't work. And so it's the same note that you had like a year before, but it takes going through the entire cycle to kind of everyone to go, oh, yeah. Do you know what? The scene doesn't work. You're like, oh, really? Oh, okay.
Oh, surprise.
Surprise. But yeah, so it takes, but all these things, it just takes time. It takes getting used to it. It takes getting used to the story, I think, sometimes.
Did you find it difficult though I don't know if this makes sense, to remove the producer side of you from the writer side of you with your own book?
Do you know what? That's a really good question. I think I find it hard also because before I was a producer, I was a script editor. So I work with writers on their script. So I think the thing that's hard for me, and everyone says, you know, a different form of the cliche of you can't edit a blank page, you just got to get it out. And the problem is, as an editor by training, is I edit in my brain. And so you need to switch off the editing so you can just like spew. Otherwise, I'll never get to the end because I'm constantly thinking about why it works or it doesn't work. And I've got so I've got to switch off the editorial side of me. And that's something I'm still learning, Nadine. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm still learning because I have to consciously switch it off.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the thing though. It's like you never stop learning as a writer. And I don't mean for it to sound patronizing because I think someone could say it to you and be like, what do you mean? But no, I think you do, like you never stop learning. Like you'll think, okay, this is the way and this is the right route for me to approach to write my book. This is the correct format, whether you're a planner and you do spreadsheets and schedules, and then you might realize actually this doesn't work. And
do you know what? I love that you say that after like you're 4 books in, aren't you? Because I think because I like in my early 20s I wrote a play, didn't enjoy it particularly, but I loved theatre. And I remember someone came to a reading, I had like a reading, and they were like, oh, if you do this and this, we might put it on. And I just thought, I don't want to do that. I had no interest in going back into it. But whereas with the book, I enjoy the process of writing it. I enjoy the process of like trying to make it better. And actually I enjoy the process that you're going to have stuff to learn forever. Do you know what I mean? Like it's never going to be done. You hopefully will become a better writer. I love talking to other writers. I love reading books, you know, so it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. I think when you realize that I think everyone feels the same, in the sense that I was talking to an author friend of mine a couple of days ago, and he's on his, I think he's on his 4th, his 4th book or his 5th book that's coming out not next month, in June. And I was like, well, how do you feel? And he's like, oh, I'm nervous. And I was like, what do you mean? Why are you nervous? You got no reason to be nervous. I think, it's going to fly. And he's like, no, I'm nervous. And then I said to him, well, I suppose, that nervousness, that feeling of, is it going to sell? Are people going to like it? Like it never goes away, no matter how many books you write, whether you've written 10 books, 15 books or 2 books, that feeling of, oh my God, is this the one?
But do you have that? Because I really enjoyed The Kill List, but that's the one I started with, that one. So I haven't read the 2 before, and I was wondering, are the books slightly different? Like, did you when you wrote your second book, did you think, oh my goodness, what are my readers? Did you think about the reader's expectation because the first book was so well received?
Yeah, and I think the thing is, I started it because I remember my tutor had said to me, I think when I signed, must have been when I signed my publishing deal, and he said to me, start writing the second book now. Or maybe when I signed my agent, he said, start writing the second book now, like, don't wait. And I kind of did. I think I did start planning it because I'm a planner. So I'd started planning it. And then I think it just turned out that I didn't start writing it until I probably got into it properly, like during lockdown. But then the problem I had was that I was writing the second book, but then because the first book was now going, the proofs were going out and the reviews, and I was starting to get reviews through. And then the reviews were, they were good reviews. And especially like it's on NetGalley as well. So you get the readers' reviews. And I'm there thinking, how am I going to do this again? Like, they liked the first one. How am I going to do this again for the second one? So it was an additional pressure that I did not need. I know you get second book syndrome anyway, but it's like, well, how am I going to recreate this? How am I going to do this again? And then like I had to have a word with myself. But I had to come out of my own head, because if I'd stayed in that frame of mind, I don't think I would. I probably wouldn't have finished it. You just think, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's really helpful, because I think the second book is so hard. Do you know what I mean? Because and I almost wish that I'd started thinking about it once the deal was done, as opposed to I kind of waited till I'd done my copy edits and was going through the process, because I was so concentrating on trying to get the first one right.
Yeah, and I think that's the best advice I had. Start the second book, and when the second one's on, you just start the third book. So even with my edits finished to book 4, so that will go back with my editor. Now I will start my next book. I'll start doing I've got a broad outline, but I'll start doing my proper outline.
Do you know how many you want to write, or could you go on
for Henley?
Yeah,
I want Henley to go on forever, because I enjoy it. I enjoy it, and I think when you still like your characters. I was going to say it's like a relationship, isn't it? If you still like them, you don't want to kick them out. When you see them, it's like, it's like,
enough,
we'll keep it going.
Yeah, why not? Why, if it works, keep it going. Why change a thing that's good?
Remy, when did you know that you could tell a story, though? Because I always think it's interesting. I always say that there's a difference between knowing you can write, because you can write, but telling a story, coming up with characters and plot and putting them in different situations that people are invested in. When did you know you could do that?
Do you know what? Strangely, I'm the reverse. I guess I'm sort of shy about calling myself a writer, but I've always told stories. So interestingly, even though I'm surprised I've written a book that's getting published, none of my friends from childhood are surprised, because I've always told stories. So like, even when my sister and I were little, we had a whole imaginary world, like full of characters, and we kind of started off with our toys, and then we invented it was literally like a soap opera. It was like a running soap opera. And then like I wrote little sketches and stuff when I was a kid. And then when I was my first job in television, I was a storyliner on a soap opera or continuing drama. So like we didn't write the scripts, but it was our job to like write the stories that were the engine, because it went out 6 times a week, and there was a lot of story to get through. So yeah, I think I've always told stories. I've always had characters in my head, and I've always really enjoyed that. Because I remember there was a day when I was a storyliner, when I looked around the table and there were like grown adults arguing about make-believe people, like literally people were slamming doors and getting up and having a tantrum. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm getting paid to do something that I did when I was 6 years old. And it just I thought, that's really cool. That's a real privilege.
It is though. Oh my God, Queen! I can remember, because I used to work at the BBC, but obviously not in like the creative side of it. Yeah, years and years ago. But it was in the talent rights group, so we were dealing with copyright and when someone wanted to use like 30 seconds of wildlife on one, making sure we got the rights.
so glamorous, isn't it? So glamorous.
It was so glamorous. It was so glamorous. But I remember walking into the office one day, and I'm just standing at the door looking out at this open plan office, and I just thought, I can't be doing this. Like, this could not be.
This is not you.
Yeah, this is not me. But I'm saying that being in the other side of that, being whatever room it is, and thinking, God, this is the thing like I used to do as a child, and now I'm doing it as an adult.
I remember someone once doing a little talk. I don't know, I was probably like in my teens, and they said they were a writer. And I didn't particularly want to be a writer, but I'd always wanted to work like in film or TV. And they said, look, I've got a really cool job. And they went, well, someone's got to have a cool job. Why can't it be you? And I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah. Yes. I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I know like a lot of my friends who hate their jobs, and actually I like both. I mean, do you like being a lawyer?
I mean, I'm not practicing full time anymore. Well, I'm not practicing anymore. But I think I think if things happen like when it's kind of like supposed to happen, because when the book deal happened, I already knew that I think I was ready for a change.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because because I love the law and I love doing criminal law, but I was like, I can't be doing. And I love going to. I still did enjoy that. Yeah, I like being in court. It's the theatre of it. I like that bit of it, but it's all the other stuff around it I was getting fed up of. Like, it's all the management stuff. It's the physical stuff of, I say, dragging myself up and down every single court around England and Wales. England and Wales.
It's like I know it's like when you watch American TV shows, they're always so glamorous, the lawyers. And then I remember my friends being lawyers schlepping up to Birmingham, schlepping off to Manchester, just like constantly on the train, you know, and it was
glamour.
It was not glamorous. It's no glamour at all.
There is no glamour. Me sitting in Brixton Police Station at 3:00 in the morning in a room that's tiny, and that the previous occupants had been interviewing someone who'd been arrested for supplying cannabis. And there's a point to this, right? And when they were during the course of the interview, some smart aleck thought, let's get these 2 like bin bags full of cannabis, leave them in the small interview room with the heating on. So the time I got in there to do an interview, I said I left there, and the police officer, he said to me, I was driving, he said to me, this will probably be a very easy arrest to make, because I'm like, I feel high, you feel high. So I didn't enjoy those moments. When it got, I was like, no, I'm like, there is no glamour. There is no glamour in that. So yeah, by the time the book deal happened, I was like, you know,
I'm ready.
Yeah, oh God, I was so ready, because I was deciding, am I going to stay or am I just going to teach full time?
Teach what?
Teach law, teach criminal law.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing as well. So I was like, am I going to do that? But then I think because I've been freelance for so long, the idea of being employed, like properly employed and having managers boss. And boss. Yeah, that wasn't appealing to me whatsoever.
But you know what? I think that helps the mindset, because I've been freelance for a long time. And so the discipline of writing, I'm quite disciplined as a person, and sort of used to sort of doing stuff off your own steam, which I think helps, you know, because it's a lot to manage in a sense, because there are a lot of words to get down on a page.
How do you manage it then? I never really asked people, like, how do you balance like work and writing? But you know, because you're in 2 very creative industries. So how do you manage it?
Or I mean, maybe ask me in a year's time, but like at the moment, because my job works in peaks and troughs. So like if I'm doing a TV, so the last thing I did was like a 2.5-year stint, but you have moments. So you have moments when you're in development with scripts. You have moments when you're in prep, kind of pulling it all together. The hardest, and so you can do stuff then. The hardest time to do other things is when you're on set, because I might have like 17-odd-hour days, and might be in different countries. And when you're back in post-production, it's more civilized. So I think, and then after that, you kind of want to keel over and like sleep for about 10 months. So I normally have breaks in between jobs. So I think I just kind of try and fit it round. That's kind of my plan. But the hardest time to do other stuff is when you're in production, because like the days start at like, you know, 4 or 5 a.m. or whatever, and they kind of go on forever.
A friend of mine, she was working on she doesn't do it anymore, but she used to work for a production company. But they used to do documentaries, and exactly as you said. So there'd be moments when I would say like the messages from her are just flowing because she's got that downtime. But in the minute they're in production, and you said then it's the post-production, you're not hearing from her, and she could literally be anywhere.
Exactly. And I think people just go into that kind of bubble.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, it feels like it's the most important thing in the world. And we're only making television. We're not saving lives. But it's just so kind of all-consuming. It's weird. But
how do you feel that being a producer, like, actually did like prepare you for writing your book? Is there anything you think you've taken from that world?
I think probably from the bit before, in terms of actually kind of shaping my own projects, I think the way I approach stories, the way I kind of plan my book kind of draws on that first job in television when I was a storyliner, and we had like a blank board, and we have to like map out, beat out stories, and there might be stories you didn't even like. So by the end of like a year storylining, I thought I could tell any story. You might not like it, but objectively, I was like, I can make any story work, because that was your job. Like, you'd be given a story, and it might not be the one you want, and you had to make it work. And then you'd kind of map out that story over, say, 26 episodes, and then you'd be given an episode with other people's stories in it. And even though you didn't write the original story, you had to make the whole episode work, and it was your responsibility to go and defend that story to the executive producer. And so after that, which was probably the best training I've ever had, I felt, yeah, I can make a story work. I know how. I kind of see the trajectory. So I think that's been really, really helpful, because a book, very different from TV, but in series television, you're constantly thinking, how do I get somebody to watch episode 1 and watch all the way to episode 8 and the end, without kind of going to make a cup of tea and never coming back. And I think with book, well, you know what it's like. Like, there's certain shows you watch, and if you're sitting there and you don't need to go to the loo or make a cup of tea, you'll carry on even if you don't even like them. But the moment the phone rings and you go to the kitchen, you're not switching back on again.
No, there were so many shows when people like my friends and family like, oh, have you finished it yet? I'm like, nope. Been like 2 years. It's been 2 years. And I don't think I'll be finishing it.
And you don't want to be that book where someone reads like 2 chapters and they're like, nah, I'm done. I'm not going to read it. But that's
kind of like, I feel like you kind of have that same like approach when you are writing your books, and maybe especially when you're writing a series as well. It's like, I need to give you something to make sure that you come back, or not even you come back and that you've already gone online and hit the pre-order for books.
But you know what you said? But you know what you said about Henley and like loving your characters. That's it. If you think about, I don't know, you don't have to answer, but if think about the shows, the series that you love the most, what has made you watch several series of something? It's the characters. It's not always the stories. You love the characters. You want to come back. And when they kill them, you're really angry. You're emotional. And I think what I'm enjoying about series television is I really love my main character, Leah Hutch. I think she's tricky at points, but I'm invested in her. And I really like the characters around her. And I think my plan is that, you know, if I could write a series where readers enjoy her and want to come back and care about what happens to her, I think that's what's going to draw them from book 1 to book 2, as well as a good story. But it's just like complex, interesting characters.
Well, they need to be invested. That's the thing. Like, your readers, when you're writing a series, this is my personal view, when you're writing a series, you want your readers to be invested in the characters, even when they do the most ridiculous things. Like Henley has done some, if she was my friend, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? I remember when she does something questionable in the first book, my brother calls me up. He was like, I was rooting for her. And then she went and did that. Yeah. Then it's like, I've got to go because I need to carry on reading. And I'm like, well, that's the response you want.
That's the response you want. Because you also want, like, do you ever watch Gogglebox on TV?
Yes.
So the thing I always go for is, like, you know, in Gogglebox, my thing with TV is always, I want to split the Gogglebox sofa. I know I've made a good episode of TV if different people say different things. And like if people are arguing with their siblings going, I can't believe it. I'm like, that's good drama.
Yeah, that's what you want.
That's what you want in the books as well. You want you want your brother to be calling you up, going, what have you done? And shouting at the characters or loving them. Yeah, you want that response.
I thought I'd done something. I was like, what? Have I forgotten? So it's like, I can't believe she did that. I'm like, who? But when they're talking about them like they're a real person.
That's the best compliment ever.
Yeah, that is the best. And it is cool. It will happen to you when the readers get in touch with you and they're like, oh, they did this and they did that. And why are they still together? I get that a lot with Henry and Rob. Why are they still together? I'm like, she's in it. It's like, what can I say? Anyway, it gives you drama.
No, completely. And I think that I think the thing I saw when I went to Harrogate that time last year was how engaged the kind of crime community of readers are with the writers and the books. Like, I'd never been to a book festival before in my life. So I was really surprised that one, there's that access, but also just that kind of passion on both sides.
Then you find it, like I say, interesting that, you know, when you're in your other world, so you're in your TV world and I'm in my legal world, I had even though I read, like read a lot, but I still had no awareness that there was this, I say, this massive festival world out there and how important it was. I mean, I think I was aware of like the massive ones like Hey, but maybe just like in passing, like I'm just aware of it in passing. But it's only when you're in it and then obviously you start writing and you got your book out and then you realize, oh my God, there are all these festivals and they are important. And then you realize how when you do go, how invested the readers are and how far they'll go. It's not just about reading your books, it's about being in your presence also.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was amazing. Like I think I was on the platform like changing from Leeds to Harrogate, and I saw a writer. I could tell because she had a kind of a Quercus bag, and this man came up to her and he had this bag of books, like massive bag of books.
Yeah,
and then they just started chatting, like, and she knew him from some other festival. And I thought, oh, okay. It's I thought it was it's brilliant. It's like weird but brilliant. So yeah,
it's weird and it's so when it first happens, when someone taps you on the shoulder for the first time and like, oh, are you Remy Kone? You'd be like, do I owe you money? It's like then you realise, oh, they read your book and they want to talk to you about their book, or they just want a picture, or they just want to sign you to sign their book. It's cool.
Yeah, no, I think so. Well, that's the thing, is that you want, even though it's quite a solitary thing, the fact that a reader's going to read it and invest, and they're going to spend money on it. They're invested in it. I don't know. It's also, I think it's both like a privilege and a responsibility.
Yeah. Did it? I'm trying to find the right way to pull it. Was it an adjustment having to write on your own when you're used to being, I say, part of a larger group in terms of the TV production? Because it's the complete opposite end. Because you're on your own, on your laptop, whatever.
Do you know what the weird thing is? Like, I would say, when you're kind of introvert extrovert split, I'm a sociable introvert. So I like people. I'm fine in a group, and I find people interesting, and I like company. But I also like my own company. And when I'm tired, that's how I recharge. So actually, I really like the split of just being in my own head, writing, and then also, if you're in production, you're never alone, because they're like about 50 people. Like, there are about 50 people in the room at every one time. So I think I like both.
Do you come from a creative family? Like, was anyone surprised when you and your sister were doing your dramas?
Not really, because I think my kind of my parents, my mum always have been very, do whatever works for you. Very encouraging of that stuff. It's like, as a child, sometimes I was in my head for a bit, but I was also quite sociable, and I was just sort of, just kind of, that's her, let her go on. And I never kind of had any kind of weight of expectation in terms of, like, when I went into TV, I don't know, no one was sort of telling me that I should go and be a lawyer or something more practical. I think my sister did law for a bit and she hated it, and so she kind of changed. But I don't come from a family of TV producers and writers. So I think what I found really interesting, and you might find the same, I just think these professions, they feel like there's some kind of weird mystical, no one knows what happens behind closed doors. No one knows how to get into them. No one knows how to navigate them. And in TV, when I worked in development, I ran an intern program, because I think it's so hard. It's so hard to get into TV. And then everyone's like, oh, why does everyone in TV look the same? I was like, well, if you're paying people so badly, only people that are living at home, not paying rent, like, people can't afford to do those jobs.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Or people that know they exist because no one's telling them they exist. And it's just like, how do you demystify these professions so more people who would really be good at them actually think they're an option for them? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but...
No, but the pay thing, I would say it's not even like with the creative industries as well, because they'll always say, well, now that, people can't afford to be a solicitor or be a barrister, well, criminal solicitor or criminal barrister, because especially if you're doing legal aid work, because the pay is so ridiculously low. Like, I remember how much I was being paid. Imagine when I qualified, and that was back in 2006, and fast forward to now 2025, and newly qualified solicitors are being paid less than what I started on.
Really?
Like 19 years. Yeah, 19 years ago. even with inflation. And I started on, I think it was 27,500 as a newly qualified solicitor in 2006. And I remember, and the crazy thing is, I remember the woman I'd worked for, I'd done a secondment with, when I told her, yeah, I've gotten this job, this is the firm I'm going to, this is how much they're paying. She goes, oh, well, that's not right that they're paying you that much. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I know, look at your face. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you thought they were paying me too much. And then you get solicitors, newly qualified, working, going into criminal law, being paid less than that, which is crazy.
No, it's crazy. Criminal laws, yes. I mean, as I said, like, we've all watched too much TV where criminal lawyers are like walking around looking really flash with these suits.
I wish.
They've like watched too much like OJ Simpson case. They're like, yeah, that's
I watched too much Suits. I wanted to dress like Jessica.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, like, Jessica's got some great shoes, So
she did.
She really does. Great suits, great shoes, but unfortunately, that's not reality.
No, and they said it goes. It's law, the creative industries. So yeah, people need they need to see what's behind the curtain. Yeah, but they need to know how to get there.
They need to, but also the thing is, they need to also know that nobody's path is the same. Because I think sometimes people think, if I could just find out what happens behind the curtain, that exact same thing will happen to me. And I have not spoken to two people with the same experience about becoming a writer or becoming a TV producer or whatever.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's the same thing with writing, because I can tell if I'm talking to someone, and I'm not going to say aspiring writer, they're just a writer, but you can tell when they're asking the question, and the question's not necessarily about the craft, but it's wanting to know what the magic bullet is, what the secret sauce is to getting an agent and getting a deal. And I'm like, there really isn't. Like, my journey is not going to be the same as your journey, Remy. Also, my mates, everyone's journey is different. Everyone's route to getting in is different. And I mean, I still maintain there are no overnight successes. Everyone you see will probably have 2 or 3, or maybe 1, but they'll have a couple of books behind them, really, or they would have worked on that book for 2, 3, 4 years before they even got an agent to even look at it, and then get their first rejection. So everyone's route is completely different.
No, completely. And so it's not helpful to compare yourself to the people around you, even though people can give you great advice.
Yeah. Say comparison's the thief of joy. It'll turn you mad. If you spend all your day looking at, just looking at, I'll say, the bookseller emails that pop in your inbox every day, and then you pick up the Observer, if they're still doing the Observer, like in the new year, and they do, the hottest under 30 or the debuts. These are the ones that are going to succeed for the year, and you're not on that list. You're like, what's the point? You have to avert your gaze.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, definitely avert your gaze.
Listeners, it's time for a very short break. If you're enjoying this conversation with Nadine Matheson and want to help keep the podcast going, why not buy me a cup of coffee? Your support goes such a long way in keeping these conversations flowing. Just check out the link in the show notes. So going to your book, Innocent Guilt, who came to you? Did Leah come to you first, or was it the story, or was it the scene? No, there's 3 questions in there, and I'm not supposed to do that. My legal training tells me otherwise. But was it the character, or was it the story, or was it that scene of the woman holding the baseball bat? I can't speak. Holding the baseball bat, but drenched in blood.
So I think, one step before that was I had this prologue, which like you're seeing, I held on to for dear life, like for a long time. Held on to it. I thought it was magic. And then my sister read the book, and she's like, "You've got 3 openings. It's got to go." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And basically, I had this thing in my head, which was these someone just saying, will I, on a loop. And it was someone in like a really dark place questioning whether they were going to do something awful, like your worst kind of nightmare, but sort of wondering if they were capable of doing something terrible and wanting to do it. And that was what was in my mind. So I had a scene that was all about that. And then I had the woman who kind of turns up drenched in blood. You don't know whether the blood's hers. You don't know whether she's the victim or the perpetrator. And she just walks in and she's mute. And that came to me soon after. And then because she was mute, I wasn't sure what she was going to say when she opened her mouth. Do you know what I mean? So I had to kind of really think my way into that and what her story was. And then the character, Leah, kind of came to me in a very bald form, but she didn't kind of come alive for ages. So in the book, her, because you've got the kind of her and then you've got Odie, the kind of secondary character. Leah's bits are written in the first person and Odie's are in the third person. And I think I wrote half the book with Leah in the third person. And then I was like, I'm not getting her. It's not working. So then I went back to the start and I put her in the first person. Then we just gelled.
Did you find that easy to do? Because I always, and I need to just change my whole thinking about the voices. Because I always think like writing in the first person scares me. I always say I don't think I can maintain it for a whole book. Even I'm going to try with a book I plan to write. I'm going to try. But I always feel I can maintain it for maybe a short story. But the thought of a whole novel just scares me. Did you find that transition easy to do once you decided that had to be done?
Well, I wouldn't say it was easy, but the moment I started, she came alive in my mind. Because I had two options. Like, someone said to me, "Oh, why don't you try putting her into the present tense?" And that didn't work for me at all. It didn't make the scenes come alive anymore. And then when I went to the first person, I just got to know her better. And because she's my main character, and I want to go on a journey with her for a while. Yeah, that just really helped. So even though it was hard at the beginning, once I got used to her voice, I was like, yeah, Leah wouldn't say that. Leah wouldn't do that. That wouldn't happen. And she was like almost fighting back against some of the decisions I'd made, which was helpful.
It's nice when they do that. It's funny as well. It's also unexpected. I remember I felt like at one point I had Henley sitting in a kitchen out of pure stubbornness. Like, I don't know. It's like literally like saying to me, I don't know why you think I would do that. I would not do that. And until you get your act together, I'm staying here. That's literally how it felt. And I was like, let me just move you. Let me just move you. And it worked.
No, that's brilliant. I think that's why sometimes, when you're writing and you've just got snatch time, that can be, I think it's really hard and I just feel I'm just getting words down. But like when you can actually sort of sit with it for a bit, that's when, what you're talking about feels like it's happening, because she won't move and you're like, oh, why is she not moving? And then as you're
I had to move. She made me move. Like, well, let me just move from my desk and I'll come back. Like when you have sort yourself out and I'll come back.
Yeah, go for a walk, come back. Okay, right, we're moving. We're not in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So, that's brilliant. That's really good.
So Remy, now that you're in the publishing industry, what has surprised you about it so far?
Oh my gosh. I think, and maybe this is just crime, I think I was really surprised by how friendly and generous all the writers are. Like, I genuinely feel everyone's just been really lovely. And I'm not saying people aren't lovely in TV. That's not true. But I think TV has more of an edge as an industry. Yeah. Maybe publishing does too. I have no idea because I haven't been in it for that long. But I think just the generosity of other writers with their time, with their advice, just the fact I just kind of watching them support each other. So it's almost like people have running mates. Like, you write alone, but I was talking to a writer who'd written, 15, 16 books, and they were talking about someone else who started at the same time, as if they'd been in the same class at school and sort of
that's what it's like.
And they've kind of like gone up together up through school. And I think that's been the biggest surprise. And then also, because there's lots of it that overlaps with TV, like we have agents in TV, but I think for me it's been different being on the other side. Because it's I'm not normally, as a producer, I'm not the person who's creating in the same sense in terms of putting the words on the page. I'm not an actor whose face is on the poster. And I think getting used to the fact that it's your name on the book is something that I'm struggling to get my head around, if I'm being honest.
It's hard because it's only like now talking to you that I realise like how hard it is, because even it's two completely different industries, but even being a lawyer, it's not about me. Yeah. It's only about me in the sense of when I'm cross-examining someone, and I always say to the students, like, jurors watch too much TV and they expect a show because that's what they're used to seeing. Yeah. So the spotlight changes and it does become, it shines on you for a little bit. But at the end
But
of
you're
the
a
day,
means, aren't you? You're a means to an end.
oh
You're
yeah,
not the end.
exactly. I'm a means to an end, and it's not my name that's going to be on the indictment. It's
Yeah.
going to be the defendant's name all through the indictment. I'm just a footnote. And to then be in a position where you are front and center, that takes a lot of getting used to. And I think that's probably why people probably have a difficulty immediately calling themselves a writer when someone asks them what they do, because it's all about you.
Maybe that is why I sort of struggle to answer that question. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Yes, exactly. It's gone from like you can have a lot of control in your career, but without being the name on the poster.
Yeah.
To suddenly, and especially in crime, like the names are quite big. So it's just like, yeah. It's like, okay.
You can't miss it. You're like, there is Remy Kone all over that.
Exactly. Whereas like if you look at some more, I don't know if you call them literary novels or whatever, sometimes the name is a little squiggle in the corner, but not in crime books. It's like front and center. It's shining. It's like, if it's American, it's squiggly in like bright letters. You can't get away from your name. So that I think is going to take me a while to get used to.
Did you ever think about writing under a pseudonym?
Writing under a pseudonym? Yes.
Yeah, because another author I've spoken to, who's a TV producer, Kate Ruby, she writes, obviously Kate Ruby's her pseudonym. She doesn't write under her professional name.
That's because I think then allows you to have that. It allows you to have a separation, I guess. But I think with all these things, it's really interesting because I think some people, like I haven't been to many festivals, but it's interesting when you watch the panels. I think some people thrive in the spotlight more. Yeah. And some people look like it's the last place they possibly want to be. And then there's someone in the middle who doesn't necessarily love the spotlight, but they know how to exist in it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
probably quite similar to you knowing how to like do your closing arguments and be confident.
You know
and
how
get it all done.
You learn how to manage it. But I've had to trick myself into doing that. And I tricked myself into doing it from uni. I would just say, I would tell myself, it's just a snapshot in time. It's your 15 minutes, your half an hour, your hour, and then you're moving on and it's someone else, the spotlight shifted on someone else and it's no longer about you. And that's how I had to trick myself into doing it, because I used to hate it. I don't want to be talking in front of people. I don't want anyone looking at me.
But then you're right, then you just sort of get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I've had to do it.
Yeah, no, it kind of makes sense. But I think the thing is, and I don't know about whether if you look at some of those writers like who wrote in the 80s, like pre-social media, and it feels like they didn't really have to do that. They just wrote their books. I'm sure they didn't just write their books, but there wasn't the whole festival. Do you know what I mean? Like all the appearances.
But I do. The same way. Yeah, there wasn't. But I do feel like I'm sure like if you go back and do your research, like you'll always hear about, so and so was like the bad boy of literature, or so and so was this and so. So I think there's always been that contingent of people, of writers, creatives who do want the spotlight and they do want to be seen.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, you're right, because I do remember those narratives like from certain bunches of writers. Yeah, but it feels now like everybody's sort of out there.
Everyone's a bad boy.
Everyone's a bad boy. Everyone's a bad boy. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think the industry is just, to me, it's all still quite new and it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. Is it something you think about when talking about social media? Because you say when you've come from an industry where it said it's not about you, you're not in a disrespectful way, but we're all in the background, we're just doing our thing, and
and I love that.
Yeah, and now you have to be up front and center.
Yeah, because I'm terrible with like social media and stuff, because as a person, I don't use it. And I don't have to use it. And I think that whole, if you could just write books and put them out there, I think I love talking about books and whatever. But I think if you didn't have to, the social media part's never going to be my favorite part of it. Never. It's just not something that comes naturally to me at all. Some people love that. It's not for me, really. No,
I did a Substack like, randomly. I just did a Substack live earlier today. I thought, let me just jump on it. I've never done one before. Let me just do a Substack live. I'll just talk to myself for 10 minutes. I got no problem doing that. Then people came on and I was like, oh, there's people. And someone asked me, basically, should they have a following before they even self-publish their book? And I was like, no, you don't. I said, there's this thing going around that agents and publishers won't pick you up unless you have like a large follower number on social media. And that is not true at all, because I said, going, I think back to myself, back when I self-published, so like in 2015, so that's like 10 years ago, I had social media. I had Twitter, but it was on private. I had Instagram, but it was on private.
Did you say you self-published first, or you've just published?
Yeah, my very first book, I self-published it. And that was in 2015. And I always say, when I went on Twitter, which must have been, I don't know when Twitter came out, maybe it was like 2010 or something, when I joined. I only went on it to follow Prince. Like, I was like...
You're a quiet voyeur, just like watching.
I wanted to see Prince. And then, you know, the years go by, Prince was putting on the links to his secret concerts, which I never got to go to. So that was the only reason why I was on there. And then it wasn't until the Jigsaw Man came out, so that's 2021, that I think or maybe prior to it being published, I then switched everything to public. But but it wasn't about, I need to get like 100,000 followers.
Did you grow your followers kind of incrementally?
Yeah. And I think it's just happened organically. I haven't done anything to be like, I need to get 10,000 followers, so let me do this every single day. I just post stuff. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I just post stuff, and if it grows, it grows. But I can say, you know, of each book that comes out, the numbers go up. But I think that's just part and parcel of it, isn't it? If you're doing well, the more people find you.
And I think people also invested in your books, because like they come out one a year. You one a year.
Yeah, average on one a year.
I know. It's funny.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, when I look at people like, say, Val McDermott or Anne Cleeves or Lee Child with their 30, I'm like, wow, 30 years.
Oh my God, I know.
Excuse me.
Especially, and I'm like, oh God, I'm like 4 books in. How old am I going to be?
26 to go. 26 to go. That's what I said to you.
26 to go. But also as well, I don't think anyone's following me on social media to see what I have for breakfast, because that is not the sort of content you're going to get. It's not about that. So, Remy, let's talk about your book, Innocent Guilt. Also, what was it like? I know it's just a proof copy. So you must have your final copy yet.
No, they're about to send them to me. I haven't received it yet. They sent an email saying they just arrived in the office.
Oh, that's going to be a moment.
Yeah,
I'm holding on to your book like it's my book, but I'm like, what was it like even when you got the proof?
Actually, that was so exciting, because I think I've always wanted. It's like when I started writing the book, I was like, you know what I really want? I want to have a book on, you know, like W.H. Smith's Heathrow. Yeah. I was like, I want to be able to go into W.H. Smith's Heathrow and take my book off the shelf. And then just before I got the proof, or maybe it was around I went to the proof. I went to the library. I love the library. I just think it's amazing that you can just people can just read from libraries. And I looked at the crime section, and I felt really emotional. I thought maybe one day I'll have a book in the crime section in the library.
Do you know what? It's it's weird, because you think, I'm not going to get all caught up in my feelings about seeing my book on the library shelf. But I went to a library, and it wasn't even my local one. I think I did an event there. Maybe it was East Ham. And then I saw my book on the shelf. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. There's my book. Because with the library, it's there for the community, and people are there. They're, I say, renting it. They're loaning the books, and then it'll go back, and then someone else will take it out.
I know. I just thought, I was just like quite overcome. I was like, I don't know. I have to wait to see my book in the library, but that will be a big moment for me, because I just think libraries are amazing in terms of what they do. But when I got the proof, it was really exciting. I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like a real book. I mean, it is a book.
It's not the only one who says that. It's such in your head, you're like, of course it looks like a book. It is a book. But you're like, it's my words. You've just been looking at these words on a
and also I was like, oh, it kind of quite weighty. I was like, who wrote that?
Feels like a book.
So it feels like a book. So I thought I was really excited. And actually, I spoke to someone the other day that basically had given away all their proofs, and so they didn't have one. I thought, but you want to have a copy of your own proof.
Yeah, I've kept copies of my proofs. You have to, even if you just one, especially this, like your first one. But I've got copies of proofs of all my books.
Do
Like
you?
I wouldn't
Okay.
give them. I wouldn't give them all away. But it did come a point, and I'm like, there's too many books in my house. Like put them in my brother's garage.
Get rid of someone else's. Keep your proof.
Yeah. Give them to your parents or someone that they would love it. So Remy, would you like to tell the listeners of the conversation about innocent guilt?
Yes. So it starts as we talked about, that a woman covered in blood carrying a baseball bat just walks into a police station, and she's completely mute. She won't say anything about where the blood came from, where she came from. And my lead character, Leah Hutch, is there, and she's assigned to her case. And then meanwhile, in a nearby park, a local journalist gets a tip off about a dead body. And she's trying to link the dead body to the woman that walked into the police station. And then it transpires that woman and Leah have history. They don't particularly like each other. So it becomes a sort of cat and mouse game between them to kind of find out what happens. Is kind of more, kind of spoiler alert, more murders take place. And then also Leah's got things happening with her past that are kind of coming to bear. So it's a story about primarily Leah, but the kind of two women as they go through this case in parallel, but then almost together.
Okay, so I've got 2 questions that follow on from that. So the first one is, did you face any challenges in writing your book?
Oh my gosh, so many. So many. I think it's interesting when you have like a main protagonist, but also another very, very key character, like how you balance the story, kind of between the two of them. And I think as well, I hope that the kind of the sort of the twists and the turns are really satisfying for the reader, because I think sometimes when you're writing, I don't know whether you find this, you can almost second guess whether people are one step ahead. And I think that sometimes as a reader, that's really satisfying. Sometimes as a reader, I want to get there and then go, oh, I was right. And then some things I want to be really surprised by.
Yeah.
So it's just that, it's that balance of it. So I think that, and then also I think that just the challenge of just going back over it again and again, just trying to make it as good as you possibly can.
Yeah. Okay, next one is, if you could spend an afternoon with any of your characters in Innocent Guilt, who would you choose and why?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think it would probably be Randle, who's her partner, because I think he's kind without being bland. And I also think that it's easy to feel that you know him because he's quite open. But I think there's a lot more going on under the surface. So I think as a character, he would probably surprise me the most. So yeah, I'd love to spend an afternoon with him. Interestingly, I would never write him in the first person because I like having an air of mystery about him.
Oh, that's a good thing. Do you know what? I said this earlier to someone this morning, was that whenever I've asked this question, I think there's only been one person so far who said they'd want to spend the afternoon with the main character. It's always someone else on the periphery they want to spend the afternoon with.
That's so interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's because you spend so much time with your main character, whereas some of the others, you don't spend as much time with them. So you're just like, okay, yeah, I'd be interested in having a coffee with you. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Let's see what you got to say for yourself, Randle.
Yeah. Let's see if you make book 2, Randle.
Let's see if you make book 2. Oh my God. How far ahead are you in your series, like in your head?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think interestingly, when I pitched it for my publisher, because I'm quite used to doing pitches, I pitched, so in my head, I love 90s thrillers, like, all those films from the 90s, 80s, 90s, like kind of No Way Out, Presumed, all those films, I love them. And so my idea was to have it kind of think of the series like a series of 90s thrillers. So each one is a thriller, because even though she's a police officer, it's quite heightened, like my procedural, there's some flights of fancy in there, so that each one feels like a slightly different thriller. So the first one is quite psychological. The second one currently, but I'm still writing it, isn't it feels slightly different, but hopefully is just as thrilling. And then in my head, I've got different versions of thrillers. So I had a kind of 5, I don't know, the seeds of 5 books. It might all change. But when I pitched it, I was like, yeah, this one's this. And this, I have like a sort of small paragraph. I was like, okay, got to write it now. But I think it was a good exercise to know that there are different worlds you can go to, and that there's enough mileage with the characters to keep going. you know, and actually, and also more importantly, going back to your point about wanting to hang out with Henley, that I want to hang out with her for several books.
I honestly feel that you need to be able to feel like, and I asked a question about having a coffee. I need to know, can I spend the evening in the pub with you and not just get fed up of you and want to leave?
Exactly.
So it's like, I need to feel like that.
Exactly. Even if I don't like you, I want to be stimulated by you.
Yeah.
Like, can we have a good chat for like, you know, for an evening?
We don't have to be best mates, but can I chat with you and like maybe I might meet you again next week? I need to feel that.
Exactly. Yeah, one step at a time. One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Exactly. I think that's really important, because I think when I read your book, I can tell that you have a care for your main character, and I think that's really important as a reader to kind of feel that character really matters. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's because I always say when I didn't see her face. I saw the outline. I saw like the silhouette of her, and I saw her standing. She was standing on Lewisham High Street, and she was looking at Lewisham Police Station, and I knew she had to go in there. But I knew that I already knew there was a story to the reason why she hadn't been there for a while, and that something had happened to her. And I think because I was probably so invested in what had happened to her and what was making her so hesitant, I probably feel a little bit protective of her.
Do you know what her face looks like now?
Not really.
No, neither do I. But to be honest, if I close my eyes, I don't know what my face looks like either. It's true.
It's hard to imagine that when I'm looking at myself.
Okay, well, I've got a little
but
when you switch off the camera, close your eyes and try and think about exactly what you look like, and I guarantee you don't know. Well, I don't know.
I will try it. I
don't know what she looks like, and I think that's I do to a degree, but I don't exactly, and I quite like that. And so I think it would always be very weird if your book ever got made, who she'd be.
Yeah. And I think probably in that same vein, it's like when I do think of her, like it's probably why I probably changed the actresses who I'd like to play her, because I'm not committed to what she looks like. I said, because I know the silhouette of her.
Yeah, I have the silhouette as well.
Yeah, I know how tall she is. Like I know her body. I know all of that. And even like the other characters in the books. So even with Stanford and Eastwood, like I know them, but I couldn't tell you. Like I know Eastwood is blonde, but I couldn't tell you
exactly.
I
know what the others look like more. Have you ever read A Little Life?
No.
Okay, so basically, I mean, it's very traumatic. It's a brilliant book, but it's very traumatic. Anyway, her main character, the only thing she ever tells you about him, don't quote me on this, but I think this is right, is that he's got indeterminate ethnicity, so you can never tell. He's beautiful. And she describes his hands, and he's got some kind of disability, or kind of like he's because he had an accident. But apart from that, she never describes his features. She never goes into any detail about him. And you just have this to play with all the way through the book. And he is the person that it's 800 pages long. So you are walking through 700-800 pages with this guy. And that's all you really know about what he looks like.
But I think that's better though. I think it's better for the reader, because then the reader the reader will fill in the gaps for themselves, which is always interesting when they will do this, when they will tag you in on who they think your characters look like. So sometimes it's happened. I'm like, no, that is not Remuta. I don't know who you think. That is not Remuta. And other times I'm like, yeah,
could work.
That could work.
That's hilarious. But I think that's lovely that they've got their own ideas. You might have created those characters, but they got their own ideas about.
Honestly, they have their own ideas. It's interesting. I think I'm even trying to think with the Jigsaw Man with Olivier, who's like I say the main. He's not really the main killer, but he's the killer that everyone likes.
Yeah.
And I don't even have like a clear. I know what his eyes are like, but my whole thing though when I was creating him was that I need him to be charming. So the whole challenge for me was how to create charm on the page. Because I don't think it's an easy thing.
No, it's not, because
not even to describe.
Well, I think it's a hard thing in life. I always think people in life that describe themselves as charming rarely are charming. Like actually charming people don't go, oh, I'm so charming.
No, it's for someone else to say, oh my God, they're so charming. You're like, oh,
Exactly.
are they? Because there's something about them.
Exactly. They're quite alluring. The thing I always visualize often, well, not with Leah, but with everybody else, is their nose.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't always fully see their eyes, but I see their nose. Like I know I've got a very clear idea of Randle's nose, and then her DCI, Kenny O'Sullivan, he's got this like small button nose that's too small for his face. And I just find that, I don't know, kind of fixate on that.
But I think it's so interesting how writers see or how they visualize their own characters when they're writing them, because it's just so not what anyone else will be thinking.
But you leave space for it, don't you? Because I think that's why, for me personally, I don't really listen to audiobooks unless it's non-fiction. Because with fiction, I don't want a barrier between me and the writer's words. I like my imagination to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Whereas if I hear a voice already, that fills in the gaps for me. So it's like I just love the direct experience. And
also, I mean, have you listened to the audiobook for your book?
No, not yet.
Are you going to?
We're kind of still kind of process of finalizing it, but I don't know if I will. I don't know. No, because I don't know.
The only reason why I think I'm not going to tell you to do it, is that it does make you, I don't even say view the book. Well, you'll hear something else in your words when you hear someone else read your words.
Is that a good thing? Do you think?
I think it's a good thing. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Because even and it only happened when I went to watch the recording of The Kill List, and I was in the studio, and the actress she's reading the book, and then obviously she had to pause at some point, and you're thinking, oh, maybe I should have used 2 words instead of using 6. Yeah. So there are things there are little things like that. But I think it's interesting.
When you're writing, so when I read back, I often mumble to myself like a mad woman, and so I can hear the rhythm of the words. Do you read aloud when you're reading back or not?
No.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think. No, I just with that first draft, I just write. I just need to just get it. However the words come out, I just need to get it out. And then when I'm editing now, I think this has just become. It's just become, I say, practice. Like the more you do,
the more you do it. So now,
yeah.
Do you have a cycle? Like how long does it take you to write a first draft, or does it change?
It changed, but we worked it out. Me and my friend worked it out. Because I was trying to work. I was like, because I felt like I wrote book 4 quite quickly, and I did. I think I wrote book 4 in. I think I properly started it around February, and I'd finished it in July, end of July.
Wow, completely finished or just first draft?
First and second draft, because I wrote the first. For some reason, I wrote that book very, very.
So how long did the first draft? Did the first draft take you?
The first draft must have taken me. It must have taken me maybe 3-4 months.
Okay, and then a month.
And then I did my own edits, and then I do my second draft. I don't know why something happened, and I know I wrote that draft quickly.
Maybe you just were completely connected to the story. I don't know.
No, because it took me a while to get into the story, and then I knew that my villain wasn't villain enough. That's not even the correct language to use.
I understand what you mean though, yeah. Not villain.
My villain wasn't villaining. It wasn't. So when I wrote that first draft, it always felt like, and I changed how I write, because I think with that one, maybe it's a little bit long, maybe it's about 4 or 5 months it took me to write that first draft. But I remember that I finished writing it before I started doing the second draft, before I'd written Act 3. I didn't write Act 3 because I was like, I felt like for some reason, I felt like I was running out of time. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, did you share it with your agent after your first draft, or you didn't?
No, he doesn't see my first draft. No one sees it until that second draft. Then they see it. I don't show anyone that first draft. because to me, the first draft, I feel like it's just for me. But with that particular book, with the shadow carver, I knew something wasn't working.
Yeah.
I think it's probably why I was able to do it in an odd way. I was able to do it quickly because something wasn't working for me. So I had to go back and try and make it work. And then I found a way to make my villainy.
Villainous.
Yeah, villainous. I had a note. I had a note on my it was on my computer, and I had it in my notebook. And all it said was, "You need a Darth Vader." Like that was my motivation. Yeah. That was my motivation.
But I think that's the thing, like in terms of turning off your editorial mind, because you know that, but you've got to almost switch that off, get to the end or 2/3 of the way through, and then go back and address it, as opposed to you could like agonize over it day in, day out, and then you'd never get to the end of the story.
Yeah. But the 2/3 work for some reason. But the 2/3, I'm like, this is, I said, you're constantly learning, because I wouldn't have done that with the first 3 books. There's no way I would have written just 2/3 of the book and then start the second draft. But with this one, I thought, no, this works, because now I know exactly now I'm starting on the second draft. I know exactly what's going on, who needs to be there, who's not going to be there, and that fast, because it's only just the final third. The final third can just roll a bit smoother.
Yeah, because sometimes I forget things I've written, and so actually I like that.
Yeah, well, that won't change, especially when someone's asking you about book 1 and you're writing book 6 and you're like, I ain't got this. I don't know what Leah was doing on Thursday. Right, Remy, your last final set of questions, even though you did actually answer this one, are you an introvert or extrovert, or a hybrid of the two?
Yeah, so I'm a sociable introvert. So I like people, but I get my energy from being by myself.
Okay, so what challenge or experience, and I would say good or bad, in your life shaped you the most?
I think probably different as a child and adult, but I'd say as an adult, like a few years ago, like a really good friend of mine died. And I think that was I was really, really grateful that I'd seen him not long before. And I think that just really made me think about how I prioritize my time in terms of, making sure that you spend a lot of time with people that you care about.
Life is surprisingly short.
Yeah.
It can take you by surprise. Okay, so if you could go back to when you were 25 years old and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think nothing lasts forever. So I think sometimes, like when you're sort of starting out, especially working, you think, oh gosh, this must be the job I'm going to do forever. And actually, it's not 1952. Like people have lots of different careers, and so you can just relax. Circumstances can change for good and for bad, and I think that's the thing. Just sort of go with it. Something useful comes out of different things.
Again, I know I was laughing about the 1952 thing, but it's so true, because I think when you're younger, you think, oh my God, this is my job. This is my job for life. Yeah, this is it. I can't deviate from that. Even if I do want to do pottery, make my own ashtrays and sell it down the market, like I can't do that. Yeah. But then something you realise, and then you get into your 30s and then you get into your 40s, you're like, no, not every Sunday you need to have the Sunday scaries. Like there'll come a point when they don't exist, because you're doing something you enjoy doing.
Exactly. So I think definitely that. Okay.
This is my new one. What do you think is your non-writing tip for writers?
Well, I was trying to think what that means.
It can mean anything you want it to mean.
Okay, great. I'll go with that. I think have some kind of physical activity. I think your brain works a lot better if you're not sitting down all day, but also if you do something where the focus isn't on what's going on in your mind. So I just think, you may not like going to the gym or doing exercise, but I just think doing something that involves your body, not your mind, would be my top tip.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer you need to move.
Yeah.
Not because it's not healthy just to sit there all day anyway, but you need to move, because something you take yourself out of your environment, or your usual environment, and you're somewhere else, and it's just seeing different things, and then something that might just spark something new.
Exactly. I think sometimes you just need to switch off your brain, and then it works in a different way.
Yeah.
Like when you're actively trying to solve a problem, it doesn't always or often work sometimes.
No, I completely understand that, because I think even with even with the last book, so I was trying to make something work and I couldn't make it work. It was like the motivation for why a character did something. I was like, I don't know why. Like, I just don't know why. And I did my usual going for a walk in the morning, and it was literally on my way home. I'm like,
It came to you.
yeah, like 25 meters from my front door. And I was like, and I saw something on a poster and I was like, oh, that's it.
That's it. But you know, when like sometimes, you know, I've seen like interviews with writers and they go, how long does this book take you? And they're like, oh, 25 years. I was like, did it? But what they mean is it's been in their minds.
Yeah.
And they've sort of like been, I remember like Shonda Rhimes, I think it was talking about how she'd written a script for, I don't know, it was either Scandal or Grey's Anatomy very quickly, because actually she'd been thinking about it for a year. So when she sat down to write it, she wrote it like in a week or something, because she just knew exactly what she was writing, but wasn't coming to it cold. It had been percolating in quite a lot of detail for a long time.
You know, now that you say it, I think that's probably why I did write book 4 probably quicker than my other books. I do, because there was a period of time I kept thinking, I need to start writing this book. Otherwise I'm not going to deliver this book when it's supposed to be delivered. But looking back, like on my notes, I think I'd actually started planning the book way back in like 2022.
Yeah,
and I had to have done that because I remember I would have written an outline for my agent, you know, when we're doing the next book deal and stuff. So it's already been there percolating. Exactly. I already know what's going to happen with the characters. And although there was one suggestion from my editor, and I was like, no, I am not doing that. No.
Did you do it a year later?
No.
Yeah.
No, I was like, no. I said, I'll reach the middle ground. There's a middle ground there. And I'm prepared to go in the middle ground, like on the grass verge. But no, I'm not doing what you asked me to do. Every time she mentions it, she's like, you're going to do it. I'm like, no.
I'm staying on the verge. I
will stay on the verge. So finally, Remy, where can listeners of the conversation find you online? We've got to find you somewhere.
So you can find me on Instagram, and it's at Remy Kone Writer. So my name, REMI writer.
And we will find you there. So that just leaves me, Remy Kone, to say thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you. It's been a lovely conversation.
Thank you so much for listening to today's conversation with Nadine Matheson. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a brand new episode featuring more amazing guests. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a review. It really helps the podcast grow. And if you'd like to support the show, you can buy me a cup of coffee or sign up on Patreon. The links are in the show notes. And if you'd love to join the conversation as a guest, feel free to send an email to theconversation@nadinematheson.com. Thanks again for your support, and I'll catch you next time.